All right. The theory of cellular damage. This is called target theory. Okay. We said earlier that the nucleus was what we would maybe consider the most important part of the cell. It's like the information center for the cell, right? So there are certain talking like Mike Tyson. There are certain molecules critical to the survival of the cell. These are designated as target molecules. Okay. If a non-target molecule takes a hit from radiation, any damage is sublethal to the cell. You know, you bump into the cell's membrane, right? It's non-lethal, right? You don't want to rupture the membrane, but if you bump into one of those phospholipids, you're not going to rupture the cell membrane. It's going to be able to fix itself. Sublethal, okay? A hit, as in you hit the target, a hit is defined as unrepaired functional damage to a chromosome, which, if it happens in the right spot, can result in deactivation of a portion of the genetic code, which this is not going to be from one single ionizing event. This is going to be from many ionizing events in and around the strand of DNA that's in question here. Okay, so why would DNA get deactivated?
Because it was damaged.
Yeah, what might happen? What kind of damage is going to happen?
The DNA might die in part of it when it can break its little ladder. If it breaks the little ladder, sometimes when it tries to rebuild itself, it can unfortunately cause a mutation in itself.
Yeah.
That can cause problems for who's ever celled it.
Right, you break the strand of DNA and connect it in a different spot, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the code that you had to like build an antibody for the cell is now the code to do nonsense, right? To build no real proteins, right? A huge majority. So you know this, right? You know that every cell in your body has all of the DNA to produce all of the proteins that your entire body needs, right? But any one cell at any one time is not going to access that entire strand of DNA. It's going to access the part that it needs to access, right? So there is a huge chunk of the genetic code in our chromosomes that's not being accessed by that cell. That means there's a big part of that DNA that if you hit it, whatever, no big deal, right? It might make a problem for mutation down the road potentially, but that cell does not need that to survive, right? That's a sublethal thing. So we're talking about unrepaired, which some of the damage is repairable, functional damage to the chromosome, resulting in deactivation of a portion of the genetic code, but importantly, a portion of the genetic code that's going to be used by that cell. If that part of the genetic code is damaged, then that's lethal. If it's not part of the genetic code that's being used at that time, it's going to be sublethal to the cell. So we don't just mean anywhere in the DNA, we mean specific spots in the DNA. And when the DNA unzips for protein synthesis and for replication, what is that code going to be used to build? What's the DNA building? We said it. I said it even when I just said that. What's the cell building with the DNA code?
Chromosomes?
No, it's not. Well, it's gonna have to copy the chromosomes to mitose to divide, right? But importantly, the cell is going to be using the DNA to build proteins, right? And it only takes a chunk of that DNA strand to make a protein, right? It takes one chunk of that DNA strand is going to be red, and we're going to make a copy of that to go build a protein, right? The way that cells
To slay the